discuss your journey. Tell us about your life before you became a Christian. Tell us a little bit about who was Shelly.
Okay, well, I didn't sort of come from a Christian background, though my parents would say they were kind of nominally Christian, but they never took me to church. So I grew up without a church background. I think I went to church about 3 times with a friend of mine, and I was like, this is kind of a bit weird. So I had a reasonably happy childhood. I grew up in Temuka, Canterbury, very small town. But things sort of started turning to custard when I got to be a teenager. We shifted and it kind of messed with my mum's head a bit, and we started sort of the marriage, my mum and dad's marriage started splitting up, so it became quite a rough journey from there. So my mother ended up being diagnosed as a manic depressive after several years of sort of separating and getting back together with my dad. So it was a pretty rocky time for me, and I can sort of remember, just wanting to sleep a lot actually as a teenager, because I didn't want to handle it. Sleep was really nice. And then, so that happened. Things got so bad that my mum wasn't sort of really capable of looking after us anymore. And there were several times I'd come home and she'd been rushed to hospital because she tried to commit suicide, and it was pretty intense, actually.
Thank you. So, as a teenager, what were you like? Was there?
I was good in 2 shoes, actually. I was the firstborn, very responsible. Yeah. And so I did really well at school. I was pretty self-contained. I was good at art and in science and good at school, so it was easy for me. So I was pretty, self-absorbed in myself, and I don't think if what happened with my mum didn't happen, I probably would have never become a Christian actually, because sometimes you need that humbling, and I was pretty prideful and sort of self-reliant, but very shy at the same time. So I grew up with the thought in my head was, I'm not good enough, it's never enough. So I'd always strive. Some people that stops them doing stuff. For me, it just made me try harder, and I was a bit of a perfectionist, and that's been something that's driven me a lot, and something schools cured me of. As a teacher now, you can't be a perfectionist at school. So, and I talk to the kids about it and go, that's a really bad disease, get rid of that one because it's not going to do you any good. When I was 16, my mum actually committed suicide, so that was pretty devastating. And so for me, most of my 20s was taken up with dealing with that and kind of asking the question. The big question is why, If anyone around you, someone's committed suicide, the question is why. And I asked myself that question for many years and couldn't really understand where she was coming from until a time in my late 20s when I got very depressed. I was with a very depressed man. I could see then. I can remember sitting on a mountain in Dunedin and going, I can actually understand why she wanted to kill herself, because things are pretty tough.
Awesome. So when did you come to the place, where was your turning point? What happened in your life that made you consider God?
I guess I'd always, Ellen said, I always believed there was a God. I just didn't know what he, she, or it was. So I remember at one point in my 20s going, God, whoever you are, he, she, it, can you show yourself to me? And so I was seeking for God, but I had dismissed Christianity, so I actually dabbled in a whole bunch of stuff. I did transcendental meditation, yoga, all the witchy-poo stuff you can imagine. I've dabbled in it, I've found out about it, and I've studied it. And so by a process of elimination, I kind of came to God and Christianity, because I find a little bit of truth in all this stuff, but I was like, it's not really fully there. So, and I think God I was in a lot of emotional pain, for everything that happened. From my mum, I ended up, when I was 19, in an abusive relationship for 7 years. I call myself a serial monogamous, but I never married them until my last one. So men were my drug of choice that I used to kind of numb the pain. And so I got to a stage, I became a Christian when I was 32. And I got to a stage where I was just in such a lot of emotional pain. I think God said, Angels, get that one, because she's really peeing me off, because there's this loud screeching noise from her all the time. And my brother had become a Christian 2 years before. And unbeknown to me, they'd been praying for me for about 2 months. And that's a sister-in-law that just died, and let's say my spiritual mum and dad. And so they started really praying for me. And I used to think, my brother Darcy, he's just, because I was into astrology, it's just a Sagittarius. And but I remember a conversation he ran me once, and I said to him, I said, Darcy, I believe in God, but what's the deal with this Jesus? I can't understand that. But it wasn't long after that I started watching Joyce Meyer and getting him on telly, because I would sleep until about 2, and I'd get up, and that was what was on telly. And I was like, man, there's some truth in this stuff. And then I started going, I found a trapped in a phone booth, and the funny things would start to happen where Christian stuff would be popping up all the time. I was like, something God's trying to speak to me. And then I remember my brother saying, when he invited God into his heart, it was like a big lightning bolt and struck into the ground, and it was pretty intense. And he had an instant deliverance. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try, because Benny had gone through sinner's prayer. So on the 1st of September 1999, in my front sunroom, I'd just been planting some seeds. I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I was on my own. Okay, Lord, I invite you into my heart. I was expecting the thunderbolt. Nothing happened, and I was like, this is just a load of, because I used to swear a lot in the old days, so I won't say what I would have said. But nothing happened, and I was like, But that night, my brother rang and he said, hi, we're coming down to visit. And I was like, oh no, God's feeling sick on me. And I was like, oh no. Because I was trying to sort of backpedal and back out of it. And they come down, and then they were, when brother started to do the talk about, invite Jesus into your heart. And I said, don't bother, Darcy, I've already done that. And he burst into tears, and I was like, what is his problem? Because I was quite tough, I was quite hard in my heart. I was like, well, what's the deal with that? But they come down and they rang me pastor, because they were from Christchurch, and I was in Dunedin at the time. I said, what's a good church for Shelley? And they said, probably Elim, because at the time I was like the dance party queen, so I used to do the dance. So that's why I like dancing. So they took me to the church that they thought would be the ragiest, and I got there and I was like, what's the deal with these people? They're stuck in the 80s. It's 1999. But, when the anointing comes onto music, I can handle it. And it's improved since then. But, so that's where my healing journey started, really. I probably cried at church every Sunday for the first 2 years. I cried. I gave my heart to the Lord probably about 50 times until the church people said, you don't have to do that anymore, you've actually done that. So I was just wanting to make sure. And they had 2 services in the morning, 1 at night, and I'd go to them all, and I'd be right at the front. And I was just full on, I was like, whether you want to hear about Jesus or not, you were going to hear about it. And it was a wee while before I had the wisdom. God said, you don't take the milk out of the fridge until people are ready for a drink. It was like, you're going to get it if you like it or not. So, it was pretty intense, and a lot of Christians were going, you'll calm down. Get down there. And I did partly from a crushing experiences, but that's all right, we won't go there. Next. I'm a teacher, sorry, I like to talk.
That's fun. Beautiful. We see a pattern here 5 times, 50 times. Awesome. So, when you gave your heart to Jesus, how did your life change after that? What transformation took place?
I guess the first thing was when I woke up the next day, I was looking outside and I was like, wow, I can see the blades of grass. And it was like everything was really clear and beautiful, and there was so much life in living things. Wow, I can see that before. And so that was pretty amazing. But I was at the time when I became a Christian, my daughter was like 9 months old. I was living in sin with the dad. We had talked about marriage, but so that's where I was at. His mum was a Christian, and she was going, oh, it can't be wrong because we've had this lovely baby. So I was having that. But after a few months and going to church and going to a life group and reading the Bible, one day I kept getting this word in my head, unequally yoked. And I was like, that's weird. And I'd hear it again and I didn't know what it meant. And I remember then I saw it in the Bible, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And I asked my life group leader, what does this mean I'm not meant to be with him because I'm not married? And she was good on her, she didn't actually say anything, she kind of, because I kind of had to come to it myself. You know, it wasn't someone telling me you shouldn't be doing this. God had to tell me this is not okay for you. And so I had to go home. I tearfully went home to my partner at that time and said, oh, I'm so sorry, I really yoked. And, you know, you've either got to marry me or move out. And he said, well, I can't marry you. You're a different person. I don't even know who you are because you're a weirdo. And I didn't say the weirdo, but, you know, I had changed so much. You know, I was reading the Bible and going to church, and he's like, what's going on? Here's a, you know, marijuana smoking skateboarder dude who, you know, was 9 years younger than me. So, so he was like, oh, I can't marry you. I don't know who you are. You're some alien. Someone's taken over your body. And little did he know the truth. So, so I ended up, you know, we tried to make it work. He lived in the back room and it was hell for about 2 months, and then he had to move out. And so my life had changed. You know, I was different. Mm-hmm.
So is there a specific verse? Is there something that you hold on to dearly? Like if, you know, something happens, that's where you go, or you just know in the back of your head that verse? Is there special?
Oh, well, the special verse probably is the first one that I ever got. You know, you get one, like, oh, no, this is for me. And there's Isaiah 61, and it's sort of the whole of Isaiah 61. And I had a person, a lovely, well-meaning Christian, go, oh, but that's for Jesus, that's not for you. So for a long time I kind of didn't, I thought, oh, well, maybe it is, did I just not know? So it's only been recently I thought, actually, even in the last week, I've read it and thought, actually, that's almost like my commissioning. It's what God, that's my kind of roadmap for what God wants me to do is that verse. And that thing over there is actually my painting, which is based on that. So that is my testimony. I'll just, if we can quickly show that, we'll finish on that.
For you. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Oh.
Yeah, you can hold it. That's why I'm
Wow. By the way, she paints, and she's got the most amazing paintings.
This one's very dark. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
But there is one. Right. So, Dave, you hold this side. Back. I'll let it go down. So, I'll just tell you about it. So, this is about my life when I first became a Christian. So, it went from kind of darkness up in the hills, and there was a glimmer of light. Oh, yeah. Glimmer of light. And I was up in the hills, and there's tiny little pinpoints of light. That's the river of life coming down. In one version of Isaiah 61, it says, you know, in one version it says beauty for ashes. So these are little piles of ashes, and the rose is like the beauty as a radiant, you know, a bud, and it's getting bigger and bigger, hopefully coming into the valley and getting mature. That's kind of like a self-portrait of me too, you know, the jug don't get it out, but it's about having an open heaven above myself and receiving from heaven and then being able to pour it out. So, yeah, and another version I just found last night actually says a bouquet of roses instead of beauty.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so I was like, wow, that's awesome. So yeah, that's my story.